Alors, je souhaite la bienvenue à tout le monde.
So I would like to welcome everyone.
Meeting, which has been cut short a little bit, but we will have a close to a full hour with our guest, Mr. Lawrence McCauley, Honourable Minister of Agriculture. Welcome with us today. And also with the Minister, we have from the Department of Agriculture and Agri-Food, Andrea Lyon. Andrea Lyon, yes, welcome, Ms. Lyon. Deputy Minister, and also Mr. Tom Rosser, Assistant Deputy Minister, Strategic Policy Planning. Welcome, Mr. Rosser. Also, Mr. Pierre Corriveau, Assistant Deputy Minister, Corporate Management Branch. Pierre, bonjour. Mr. Fred Gorel, Assistant Deputy Minister, Market and Industry Service Branch. Welcome, Mr. Gorel. Is he here? Not here yet? Oh, there he is. Okay. Okay, well, anyways, we got your name there. And also Mr. Paul Mayers, Vice President, Policy and Program Branch. Thank you all for being here with us today. And also today, replacing Francis Drouin, we have Mr. Chandra Araya. Welcome, Mr. Araya. And also former Minister of Agriculture, Mr. Jerry Witz. Welcome with us today. So we shall start immediately, and I will give the floor to the Minister for 10 minutes or whatever you want, Mr. Minister. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and bonjour tout le monde. I'm pleased to be back at the committee again, and I want to thank the committee for its outstanding work in supporting the agricultural sector. You have recently been looking into some important issues, including agricultural debt, animal welfare, and the next agricultural policy framework. I want to thank you for your hard work and contributions on these issues. The message I want to bring to you today is that our government will continue to work with you to grow Canada's agriculture and food sector. The main estimates before you show the federal government investment of $2.3 billion. These dollars are supporting a strong, competitive, innovative, and sustainable agriculture and food industry across the country. Today, Mr. Chair, I would like to talk on 3 points. Our government support for the sector, the next agricultural policy framework, and a look at the priorities ahead. Mr. Chair, agriculture is a high priority for our government, and proof of that is in the budget we tabled 8 weeks ago. Budget 2017 clearly positions agriculture as a leading growth sector of Canada's economy. In the few years I have been an MP, I have never seen a federal budget give so much importance to the growth opportunities in agriculture and agri-food sector. The sector is one of the 6 targeted areas in our government's new innovation and skills plan. Budget 2017 supports the key drivers of a competitive Canadian agriculture and food sector. On trade, the budget targets growing annual agri-food exports to $75 billion by 2025. Expand markets in Asia. Finalize the comprehensive economic and trade agreement with the European Union. $10 billion in trade and transportation corridor, and $2 billion to support rural infrastructure, including roads and bridges. On innovation, our budget invests $70 million in agricultural science and innovation to address emergency priorities such as climate change and soil and water conservation, and almost $1 billion in superclusters focusing on innovative industries, including agri-food. Over $1.2 billion in strategic and innovation fund to attract and support new high-quality business investments in and emerging sectors such as agri-food. On the environment, the budget provides $200 million to support the expanded adoption of clean technology in the natural resources sector, including by Canada's Agri-Food, and over $5 million to extend the Green Jobs program to help farmers make green improvements on their farm and give young people job experience in agriculture. The budget also reviews the government's commitment to the next agricultural policy framework. We're making good progress on the framework. Based on the input from the agricultural sector last July, provincial municipal ministers and I agreed to 6 key priorities as part of the Calgary Statement: markets and trade, science, research and innovation, risk management, environmental sustainability and climate change, value-added agriculture and agri-food processing, and public trust. I had a productive meeting in Ottawa last week with my provincial and territorial colleagues where we continued these important discussions. I look forward to the annual meeting in St. John's in July, where we will continue to work towards launching the next policy framework. I want to thank the committee for its excellent work and recommendations on the agricultural policy framework. We are currently reviewing the committee's recommendations, and your input is valuable. I can assure the committee that we will work with our provincial and territorial partners to ensure the next agricultural policy framework meets the needs of the sector and Canadians. Like you, we are consulting closely with industry and Canadians. We will build a foundation for the future for our great industry. It will support the growth potential of the Canadian agriculture and food sector. As well as the next policy framework, we have a number of priorities this year which will build on our recent successes. The comprehensive economic and trade agreement with the European Union is a key priority. We are working hard with industry to make the most of the opportunities offered by CETA. The historic agreement will unite the markets of 35 million Canadians with 500 million Europeans. CETA will expand our agricultural trade with Europe by an estimated $1.5 billion a year. Beyond Europe, I will continue to work with all our international partners to promote our Canadian exports and ensure our trade is open and based on science. In the coming year, we're planning missions to key markets, including the U.S., to meet my counterpart in Washington, the European Union, and a return mission to China. There's nothing like face-to-face meetings to expand our trade in these markets. While promoting trade, I want to assure this committee that our government also continues to stand up for supply management. We are investing $350 million to help Canadian dairy farmers and processors stay in the cutting edge of innovation and make the transition to CETA. These important programs will be in place when CETA enters into force. We will also continue to build our relationship with our largest trading partner, the United States. I have recently delivered speeches to 2 key stakeholder groups in the U.S., the agriculture and rural leaders in Louisiana and the New England Canada Business Council in Boston. I also had a very good call with the newly confirmed Secretary of Agriculture, Sonny Perdue, last week. We both understand the importance of a trading relationship. We will also continue to promote the benefits of NAFTA, which has increased agriculture in North America by 4 times. Moving our products is critical to reach new markets and grow exports to our current customers. You cannot have trade without transportation. That is why the government is committed to bringing forward legislation to help build an efficient and reliable grain transportation system in Canada. This morning, we delivered on that commitment when the Minister of Transport tabled legislation in the House. The proposed legislation is part of Minister Garneau's overall 2030 strategy. It will address key concerns raised by the grain industry during the consultations. This proposed legislation will help to make Canada's rail transportation system more transparent, fair, and efficient now and in the years to come. Building on these measures, today I am pleased to announce the Government of Canada is also renewing the Crop Logistics Working Group. The working group has done a great job bringing industry and government together. I am pleased we can continue to benefit from these insights in the years ahead. The industry also told us that information and collaboration are critical to ensuring top performance. We need a clear and timely picture of how well the system is performing at any time. That is why I'm also pleased to announce we will renew the Green Monitoring Program for another 3 years. This will give the industry an accurate picture of how the system is working and help us take quick action on any issues that may arise. Looking ahead, we will soon launch consultations with industry and Canadians to develop a national food policy. We are committed to undertaking broad consultations with stakeholders and Canadians on the development of food policy. I understand that the committee may also undertake a national food policy study. I certainly look forward to your recommendations if you do so. And of course, we will continue to reach out to young farmers who are the future of our industry. We will continue to ensure we help our youth get the skills and support they need to drive Canadian agriculture forward for generations. It is always so inspiring to meet young people who are so passionate about the future of agriculture. In fact, I held a number of youth and agriculture roundtables and Facebook Live events across the country because it's so important that we sit down with the youth and understand what their issues and concerns are and see how they view the agricultural sector. Mr. Chair, Canada's 150 is a source of pride for farmers because agriculture has such deep roots in our Canadian history. Agriculture will certainly play a vital role in growing our future. Looking ahead, I see tremendous promise and potential for the sector. Dominic Burton, Chair of the Finance Minister's Advisory Council on Economic Growth, recently issued a report stating that Canadian agriculture can be a key part of Canada's path to prosperity. Canadian farmers and food processors produce the best food in the world, and they're well placed to meet that demand. While our nation has tremendous opportunities, we can take nothing for granted. Success will take a lot of hard work and deeper partnerships. There will always be challenges, but if we work in a united front, we can continue to have great success in this country. I look forward to working with this committee to grow this bright future in agriculture. Thank you very much.
Much, Mr. Minister, for this opening statement. And at this stage, we will now start our question rounds. And for 6 minutes, Mr. Bev Shipley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Minister, for joining us today. I would just like to start in terms of you talked about the. I'm just going to step back. In terms of the Canadian Dairy Commission, I was just taking a look at, in terms of the policy framework, some of the changes that happened in the Commission, and it's just a question. Contributions to support the Agriculture Adaptation Program. In the 2016-17 estimates, it was a little over $10 million. It moved down to 5.5. And I can see where some 800,000 went. I wonder if you can help me where the rest of the money got allocated. That was there in terms of the adaptation program, which is actually, when you're talking, Minister, about all the things we want to do in terms of research adaptation, I'm seeing a cut of some, well, $5 to $6 million. I wonder if you could help.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shipley, and I think I'll let Pierre answer that detailed question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, in fact, in the department reference level, this shows as a reduction, but in fact, the money stays with the sector. That money is being transferred to the, there's $4.47 million that's being transferred to the Department of Western Economical Diversification. And it is to support the Saskatchewan Cattlemen Association for a project that's being planned with the University of Saskatchewan and the Vet College for 2 facilities, one in Clavet, Saskatchewan, and one in Floral, Saskatchewan, to support the organization. So the Department WD will take the lead on this, but the funding, portion of the funding is coming from this department. It's a normal process, but obviously from a departmental reference level, there's a small reduction, but the money stays with the sector.
Thank you. And there may be a follow-up to that a little later. But in terms of the transportation, there's been dollars allocated in ministry. You talked about the money that was going to go to rural transportation in terms of roads and bridges and what have you. What we're seeing in reality right now is that a huge majority, some close to 94 or 95% of infrastructure projects that have failed to even start the construction. And then when we look at the infrastructure funding across, is that there really isn't any new infrastructure for spending beyond the 2016 fall economic statement. And then when you look further, the majority of the funds are back-ended till after 2022. So that moves us down the road a little ways. And in terms of funding for transportation, whether it is local, which you talk roads and bridges, but we're also talking about large projects. If we're going to be exporting, and we're an export nation, and we need to get to markets, and we need to have the infrastructure to get them to markets, I'm getting concerned when I see the back end of the transportation budget in terms of the estimates moving itself backwards, in this case forwards, till after 2022. I wonder if you could help explain that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shipley. As you understand, the infrastructure situation in the country was not in great shape when we took over government, and what we wanted to do was make sure that we made a major investment, because our government fully understands that you have to be able to move the product along with being able to produce it. We got the best farmers and ranchers in the world, but they also have to be able to move their product. And that's why with some of what the green infrastructure, $21.9 billion over 9 years, and most of that is with the provinces and territories as a joint agreement. What we want to do is work with other governments to make sure that we put the right infrastructure projects in place so that we're able to, for the agricultural side, be able to move our products. Also, trade and transportation corridors will have $10.1 billion over 11 years. All of this is vitally important because, no, and I'm not the infrastructure minister, but I'm certainly was very big and supportive on this issue, because I fully understand that if you do not have the infrastructure in place, one of the first things you have to have is to be able to make sure that you can move your product. Now, Mr. Shipley, I'm just trying to answer your question, yeah. But what is so negative on trade and on economy is a poor transportation system. And that's why, too, I was so big on reciprocal penalties even in the railroad. Being a farmer, I couldn't imagine the likes of that happening. So a lot of things are taking place, but it can't all happen overnight. But we're going to make sure that we put the proper systems in place so that the farmers can move their products. And I appreciate your question.
And I understand that. And prior to that statement, actually, we had the largest infrastructure spending, which actually we put shovels in the ground. This one is the concern of moving it to 2022. But I want to go then to the Green Jobs program that you talk about, improving on their farm and giving young people job experience in agriculture. We know that there's a huge demand and there's actually an appetite for young people. But what I don't see any money in, we're having trouble in the agriculture sector getting realization and appreciation for the benefits that agriculture, the positive benefits that agriculture brings to the environmental committee, to the environmental file. I don't see any money being spent to help promote that benefit that agriculture is already doing to the environment.
Well, of course, number one, I would say agriculture, farmers have the best stewards of the land for sure. But indeed, all this money is allocated to make sure that green projects come in place. It helps the farmers modernize their farm in an environmental way. That's why this program was put in place. And we did also understand quite clearly that the $2 million last year was not near enough. So we more than doubled it this year, and I'm very very pleased that we did, because not only are we moving on the environmental side in order to make sure that the agricultural sector is able to even move more forward, because nobody is more concerned about the land and a lot of issues in the environment than farmers. Being one myself, I understand you can't let it wash away. There's a lot of things you have to do as a farmer. But this gives the young people an opportunity to work on farms, to see these projects taking place. And I think these programs, well, I know, last year was so successful. The next couple of years, it will bring even more benefits to the agricultural sector. And always, young people are looking for, what's your experience? Well, they'll have experience. That's another important part in a very important field. Thank you, Mr. Shipley.
Minister. Thank you, Mr. Shipley. Now, Mr. Longfield, 6 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Minister, for being here, and for the people from the ministries to be here for the detailed questions. I have a question around the ag policy framework discussions with the province, and then I wanted to follow up with a question, if we have time, on changes with the CFIA budget. On the discussions with the province, I understand, from your presentation and also that from media, that you were talking with the provinces in the last week or so. Very interested in, Guelph has the provincial and federal ministries in our city. There's a really good collaboration between the two. As we look at superclusters, the opportunity that they provide, are other provinces as excited as Ontario about getting into bullet point 2, which is science, research, and innovation, and specifically around the creation of these superclusters?
Mr. Longfield, I appreciate your question, and absolutely, when you sit down, well, I deal, of course, mostly with the ministers and agricultural union leaders, but it's absolutely no question. I don't think that anybody understands the importance of research and all than farmers, because just for an example, canola was established through scientists in the Agriculture and Agri-Food department. They understand so well how important these programs are, and how important it is that the dollars are used properly. And the results ends up in money in the farmer's pocket. And in the end, that's my responsibility, to put more money in the farmer's pocket. And that's what I want to do. And I think it's fair to say right across the country, farmers, of course they want to do better, but they understand how they need to do better. Not with more land, but more results from the land they use.
Right, but in terms of the provinces and the discussions with the provinces around the ag policy framework, how's that going?
It's going well, but there's always a discussion. When you sit down with 12 or 13 different ministers and different governments, everybody has an opinion, but it's working well. And we had a great meeting last week here in Ottawa, a lot of discussion. You know what the main objectives are for the agricultural policy framework, and it's fair to say all ministers agree that that's the direction to go in, and I think that's what will take place. But I can't say for sure, because I'm 1/13 of the program, and I'm sure Jerry is well aware of this. It's not, it's negotiations, for sure.
Yeah.
But everybody is there to make sure that every dollar is spent in the best way possible. Like, there was a big discussion on business risk management programs, and we want to make sure that we're trying very hard to make sure that we make these programs better. That's the kind of thing, to make sure that the dollars that are used in the best way possible. And that's a responsibility of government.
Yep, terrific. Thanks. And that work that we did, the study that we did, hopefully provides value. And it was nice for you to mention that up front as well. We are...
respond, yes, absolutely. And what's so important, where you get the ideas, and I'm sure everybody around this table knows too, that where you get what's needed is from, probably not even from the ministers, it's the roundtables and discussions that you have around the country, the people that actually do the work on the land, or represent the people that do the work on the land. What you want to hear is from the grassroots just what the problem is. And I think it's fair to say that we did, and we hope to address these problems as well as we possibly can.
Creativity of farmers is never to be underestimated.
You're right.
Looking at the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, I'm noticing that the main estimates are showing a decline from $805 million on the most recent estimate down to $704 for 2017-18. There's a concern, I just have a concern that we're supporting the CFIA in the way that it needs to be supported.
Thank you very much. We did make an investment, but I'll let Paul give you the details on that.
Thank you very much, Minister. The decline that you see with respect to the agency relates to time-limited funding to particular areas in terms of time-limited funding, time-limited sunsetting program funding, which, as the committee will be aware, Budget 2017 made a significant investment in the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, and as well a decline in relation to the conclusion of federal infrastructure initiative funding, 2-year funding that the agency had received. And so the decline that you see was intentional as it related to time-limited initiatives. Budget 2017 made a further investment in the agency, which, in essence, allows us to continue programming $149.3 million over 5 years. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you. Because, you know, if we have a wonderful target of growing export growth, and we can't do that without the support of CFIA. Going through the estimates, I also noticed there's a lot of funding in other departments that really apply to agriculture in terms of strategic investment funding and, as you've mentioned already, transportation, green infrastructure funding. Is there any way of coalescing the ag funding research that is in other departments, or is that something we just know is there?
Well, thank you very much. And if you're speaking about budget and the dollars that were allotted, like the super clusters and the $200 million for support clean technology and $1.26 billion, these dollars are available to agriculture and other sectors. It's a combined. You apply for these dollars, and the criteria will be announced by Navdeep Bains and others responsible for these funds. But it's so important that agriculture realizes they are targeted by the government as being the growth for economic growth in this country. And when you talk about opportunities, when you go to the Asian community, that's where you see opportunities. We can produce these products. But we have to make these investments. But also, farmers and groups have to apply for these dollars to make sure we have the technology. Basically, what has to happen, we have to produce more on the same amount of land, and that's what we want to do and have been doing over the years and want to continue to do.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. Thank you, Mr. Longfield. Madame Rousseau pour 6 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Minister, for being before the committee. PACA. We've talked about PACA in the last Parliament. We did a study a few days here at Agriculture Committee. Last year, we wrote to you June 9th, asking you to act on PACA. Where are we at on PACA?
Ms. Barrasso, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have talked about this before, and as I said before, our government is fully committed to the financial success of Canada's fruit and vegetable industry, and we're looking to make sure that we continue the benefits that support the industry. And discussions are continuing.
So it's ongoing.
It's ongoing.
Okay,
absolutely.
Perfect. So in your presentation, you talked about supply management. I represent a riding in Quebec that has hundreds of dairy farms and chicken farms. The Liberal government, your government, announced compensation and aid package for the industry. $250 million to update technology and equipment, $100 million for dairy processors. As you know, Minister, the Dairy Farmers of Canada have projected the losses, $116 million, perpetual losses, lost revenue. The Dairy Processors Association for CETA, they predict the annual losses, $230 million for cheese processors, contributing to $719 million in losses for the overall economy, and potentially almost $3,000 in job losses. In your presentation, you said that the first portion of the funding is reflected in the supplementary estimates A, which were tabled last week. How much of that?
Well, thank you very much. It's not the $350 million will be spent. $250 million for the farmers and $100 million for innovation in the processing sector.
Yes.
But this will, when it's announced, there'll be a portion of the year left, so the funding will be 44.2 million. Is what will be, but it'll be. It's for the farm. For the dairy farmers, it's $250 million that will be allocated over 4 years.
But you know
and with the processors, it's $100 million over 4 years, and what it will be allocated appropriately, but the dollars will be spent, and it's a great announcement. But it's very important to note that that's only a portion of the dollars that are available to the dairy industry and the agricultural sector.
But you realize...
And it's important that we all work together to make sure that the farmers in every riding understand there are dollars for innovation, green technology, clean technology, all of this stuff. So I hope we all work together and make sure that, and I'm sure you will, because I understand you're very committed to the dairy farm.
I know, but the projected losses are far greater than the compensation, the aid package that you've put forward, and it's just not up to the mark, up to what farmers expect for protection of supply management. Je vais parler en français parce que j'ai des questions. Ce matin, il y a...
I'll continue in French with my questions. This morning, a report was tabled by the Auditor General on customs duties. Conclusion, $168 million were not collected by the Canadian Border Services agencies on agricultural products that duties are slapped on. This has an effect on producers across Canada. The Auditor General felt that this was an important discovery because our customs duty project depends on the government applying all the rules, all the legislation. So this disloyal import approach is not fair to our producers. So what are you going to do to solve this situation? It's quite problematic for our producers.
Appreciate your first part of your question. It is without a doubt it's a major investment that we made for the dairy farmers and the processing sector after consultation, after talking to the processors and the farmers. And what you're talking about on the second part of your question is a very important question. Mm-hmm. It's something that has evolved over the years. It's something that I became aware of when I was appointed Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food. It's a major problem. Yeah. It's there's supply managed products coming into the country that are not stopped. Mm-hmm. There's spent fowl, and there's also the what's the word I'm looking for? It's they take the product in and process it.
Yeah.
They.
But it's perishable agriculture.
What we did was I announced consultations in January of 2016. There has been a number of consultations.
You're going to make this a priority. I just want to make sure. I have one more question I want to ask you.
No, but there has been 6 people lost their import privileges because they imported supply managed products and did not export it in the 90 days. That's a start. But have we solved all the problems? No, we haven't. But we're certainly working on it, and to make sure that the supply managed sector is treated in a fair manner. And what you're stating is right and not fair. Go ahead.
Just another quick question. Transfer of family farms. There was a bill, private member's bill, before the House recently. Sadly, it was voted down mainly because the Liberal Party didn't see...
Malheureusement, Madame Brosseau, le temps est expiré.
Unfortunately, Ms. Brosseau, you're out of time. Ms. Salito for 6 minutes.
As you know, my riding is Stevenson, East Richmond, just south of Vancouver, and we deal with the agricultural issues in all of the Lower Mainland. And just like yourself, I'm a big advocate of creating a strong, robust agricultural sector in BC. Also, as you recall, you came out to the Hogler Farm, and you did a tour of a 200-acre farm in the middle of Richmond. We had about 200 farmers over for the whole area, and they were intrigued not only on the rides that we did and the tour, but your conversations with them. And you talk to them about how we can build a strong agricultural sector in BC. You mentioned earlier on that you had conversations with your provincial counterpart on the framework policy. Can you talk a little bit, I know you discussed with Mr. Longfield overall, but can you talk a little bit about how things are progressing as it relates to BC?
Thank you very much, Mr. Pascalito. I can talk to you about how it's progressing, but as I said before, there's a lot of different provincial ministers that are involved with, and I cannot state just what the framework is that we're working on. But there's no actual announcement yet, and what we're sitting down and what we have done is tried to make sure, like what I saw when I was out in your riding, that is the kind of thing that brings in a lot of dollars. Very successful small operations that produce fresh food for communities. That kind of thing is more than excellent. That and many, many other things is what we're trying to make sure we put together. There are, and the business risk management part is very important in my opinion, and I think the ministers agree that it is too, and hopefully we can deal with that in an appropriate manner. But it's also important to note, and I just want to emphasize for sure for the committee and anybody that's listening, that there's a lot more dollars beyond the national policy framework. And it's important that farmers are innovative. I farmed all my life. You have to make it work. If there's anybody that can make it work, it's a farmer. Because you have to be a lot of different things. A bit of a mechanic, a bit of a welder, you have a bit of a veterinarian. You have to make it work. And these dollars are there to make sure that the agricultural sector is more innovative, more clean technology. All this stuff is so important. And then there's the super clusters in order to make sure that we're able to capture the opportunities that are worldwide. When you look, and I had the privilege of being in Vietnam and India and China, the demand for food is immense and growing. The growth is by about 7% in these countries per year. They want the good food that you had for breakfast today. And it's our job to produce it. And that's what the policy framework is put together to help do that, but also the last budget is put together to help do that. So it's important that farmers realize that both are there in order to make sure that we work together. And it's not just through the department, my department. It's all of government program. So hopefully, and I'm about sure that the agricultural sector will do very well on this.
Minister, you mentioned India, Vietnam, China. As you recall on your visit, there's a lot of Canadian farmers of Chinese, South Asian, and Vietnamese background that were there that day. And we discussed how to export to Asia, and that's very important for all of Canada, but in particular for BC. I'd like to thank you for kind of guiding or putting emphasis on creating federal slaughterhouses so we can start sending our beef and other products over to Asia. Can you elaborate a little bit more on your conversations with the officials in China and Vietnam and India so that our farmers in BC, but all across the country, can prepare themselves for having a new market available to us?
Thank you very much. And it's just one example, the pulses. 90% of the pulses we produce in this country are exported to the Asian market. And they're growing now, I think, right across the country. That's just one fine example. There's no question about beef and pork and many, many other products that they want. We had shellfish. There's no end to it. We have also, with canola, established with China a deal to 2020, which is vitally important. And I understand now, it's always hard to work these deals out, but my understanding is we export more canola now than we ever did. So it's interesting, but and also vitally important to the agricultural sector. Really, it's the whole of agriculture that has the opportunity, basically. There might be some things that we produce that they don't use in a certain area, but mostly what we produce in agriculture, there's an opening for it somewhere in the world.
You mentioned earlier on
15 seconds.
the crop logistics working group. Can you elaborate on why it's been reinstated and some of the benefits to that?
Well, and you're talking about what we have to do is make sure that the farmers understand exactly what's going on, and I'm able to sit down with the farmers and hear firsthand from them. We also need to know in the grain industry how the shipments are going and what's available. This is what this is all about, to make sure that farmers are fully, and we are too as a government, and you as a committee are fully aware of what the problems are and what basically what direction we need to go in.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. Thank you, Ms. Lockhart, for 6 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you.
Sorry. To manage it so that I get to go around. So we're going to reduce it to 4 minutes at this stage. So sorry.
Very good, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Minister, and thank you to the officials that are here today. As a former human resources professional and a business owner and an Atlantic Canadian, one of the things that I'm sensitive to is our workforce. And, we're all very excited to see the goal of $75 billion in exports for agriculture and to talk about innovation and the opportunities that are there and the whole of government approach to that outside of just agriculture. And I'm just wondering if you could talk to us about workforce and any work that you're doing with other departments to solidify our workforce going forward for producers and also for processing as well.
Thank you very much. Without a question, I'm certainly, no matter what area you talk about, and I don't know if you're referring to the foreign worker program. That's certainly one of them that was a great interest to me. I know we had difficulties with the foreign worker program, but it's an essential program in many areas of the country. In order to, my view is that if you have the product and you have the manufacturing capacity, but you do not have the people, it's important that we as a government make sure that we have the people there to do that. And I can assure you, I work closely with Employment and Social Development Canada, and I can tell you, the people I represent, it's okay to say that there's people on EI and this type of thing, but if there's a plant that hires 150 foreign workers and 250 or 300 local workers, if we do not have the foreign workers, we do not have the local workers. The process will move to somewhere else, perhaps to the state of Maine or something. So what we have to do, I'm a big advocate of this, and we have to make sure as best we can to, if there's problems with the program, to repair the problems and make sure that the workers are there. Couldn't be a bigger, it's so important, and I appreciate the question.
Yeah, and I think, you bring up a good point that when we look at foreign workers and try to balance that against those that are having difficulty finding employment, we have to look at how they solidify some of those employers, and actually that results in more jobs for local workers. Also, we've talked about succession planning, and we've talked about youth and engaging youth. And I wondered if you could elaborate for us on the Youth Green Jobs in Agriculture program and what that is and how you see that benefiting.
Well, basically, with the youth green jobs on the farmer side, it gives the young person an opportunity to get a job, let's say, on a farm. It's an environmental occupation, but it's also an agricultural occupation. And what it does is give the young person the opportunity to work on the farm and have some experience on the farm. One of the biggest things, in everybody around these tables here, where have you worked before, and if you have no work experience, this gives people the opportunity to work in which is becoming one of the most important industries in our country, agriculture and agri-food. It's vitally important on both sides. We need to make sure that the people that are interested, and there's so many areas of agriculture you can be in. And on the processing side, I was always big on, like, it's great to ship vessel loads of products, but I'd rather ship them in 10-ounce packages because it brings more dollars to the area, and we work on that as best we can. But these are the way we talk about innovation dollars and this type of thing, and where farmers and innovators can use the dollars that are available in Navdeep Baines' budget and other budget in order to make sure that their plants are able to produce this product. I'm not big on sending something somewhere else to be repackaged. Will happen, but we need the benefit in this country.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. Thank you, Ms. Lockhart. Monsieur Gould, pour 4 minutes.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
4 minutes, Mr. Gould. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Honourable Minister, for being here with us. One of the big challenges for future generations in farm transfers is how much more agricultural land is costing these days. And people have to be very imaginative to transfer their lands. The land costs much more when they are transferred, so there's quite a big tax hit there. And here you have young people who will spend their lives paying interests to banks rather than using their funds for themselves. Do you have any plan for young farmers in this area?
The problem, without any question, and government just cannot give young people the money to buy a farm. I don't think you're going to see that take place. But what we did do was Farm Credit increased the loan application for young farmers from $500,000 to $1 million, which helps. But there's an awful lot of other, and there are other ways in the tax system. I'm always supportive of any way you can have a tax system to improve the possibility. But the fact is, agricultural land is valuable and becoming more valuable. And that's simply the way it is. I don't think we're in a position that we're going to be able to, and succession is a big problem. But do I have the answers to how somebody can buy a multi-million-dollar farm and give them money? No. Government will not be handing over farms to young people, but we are doing everything possible in order to try to make sure through the tax system that it's more possible for young people to enter the agricultural sector.
Vous avez parlé d'un investissement majeur.
You spoke of the government's large investment in rail to help grain producers export their goods, but part of the problem is the competition on the railways with petrol transportation. Will the government be allowing for different ways of transporting petrol so that we can use the rails really for agricultural products?
Transportation of oil, that's not my sector, but there are pipelines, and we support, as long as it's done in an appropriate manner, pipelines. But the rail lines are so vitally important. We know there was a study a number of years ago done after there was a major problem with the grain shipment on the prairie. And what that did was brought about what was presented today in the House, which I think is vitally important. I never thought, being a farmer, I'm a farmer, I grew potatoes on Prince Edward Island. And back then we did have a railway, and if I ordered a car in and I had to load the car, if I had a problem and couldn't load that car, I paid demurrage. If that car did not come, tough luck, I got nothing. There's one thing that happened, and a lot of things happened, but one thing that I never thought I would see as being Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food and see reciprocal penalties put in place. I think that's very important for the agricultural sector, because there has to be, if it's a problem for you as a farmer, it should also be a problem for the provider. That's one of the things. And I think interswitching, there's a number of things that are so vitally important in order to make sure that we have the proper rail system in place to make sure we can move the product, and not the product we have today. It has to be done in a way that we can move the product in 4 or 5 years' time, because it's going to increase. We're making investments in the agricultural sector in order to make sure there's more product produced in the same amount of land, which means more demand for the transportation system. So we have to have a transportation system in place that can provide this service, because it's absolutely no good to produce the product if you cannot provide it to your customer. And many times it has to be provided in a timely fashion. And if you do not provide it in a timely fashion, somebody else will. I want to make sure the Canadian farmer can do that.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. Mr. Breton pour 4 minutes.
Mr. Breton, 4 minutes. Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Honourable Minister, for being here at committee with us today. I truly appreciate this. I'm very proud of having agriculture being one of the 6 target areas for the new government, the Canadian economy. Now, the aim of 75 billion more exports from now to 2025, or by 2025, is truly to be applauded. And the agriculture and agribusiness people in my riding are very proud of Canada's approach. We have maple syrup producers. We produce a lot of maple syrup in our riding. We produce pork as well, juice, fruit juices. Now, of course, everything depends on production, because we're not going to have more land. We can't necessarily grow our plants, but we have to be able to produce more with what we have. Now, they all want to get involved in this new planning. What do you have to offer to them? If you were to mention 2 or 3 factors that you would mention to our agricultural business, how can we help them? Of course, they want to take advantage of this export possibility. They have quality products. They want the planet to use them.
And I can assure you, it's interesting to go around the world. Your maple syrup, it's a quality product. It makes you proud when you go around the world. Everybody loves the maple syrup. So I'm sure, I don't have the exact figures, but I'm sure you can produce an awful lot more maple syrup and have absolutely no problem selling it. It's without a question, I think it sells itself. But everything does not sell itself. What you have to do is make sure that and I think face-to-face with governments is very important. They have to make sure, I think rapport, number one, is vitally important. I think it's important to have a rapport with different governments. And then it's important that you have a rapport with the importers. And I'm talking more about the Asian market, and we're working hard in that area. And that's what we're trying to do. We have trade missions there, and without a question, maple syrup is always brought up. But we hear, like the last time I was there, I saw some beautiful market lobsters, and we opened a trade fair with the Minister of Agriculture in China. But that all helps, because you get media and you get the different products in this country presented in the way that the Chinese or the Indians or the Vietnamese want. That's what you have to be able to provide. And that's what we're working on. And it's fair to say governments over the years have been working hard at this, but the opportunity is there now, and we must make sure we take advantage of that. And I think it's fair to say that we are. We have the products, and it was mentioned here previously about our regulatory process. Our regulatory process is vitally important, because no matter what happens, when you sell something in a foreign country, you have a problem, and you'll always have problems. And we're big on our science-based regulatory system. And if you have a science-based system and you have to send somebody to wherever it might be, it's much easier to resolve the issue. And it's also true that most countries around the world appreciate, sometimes don't always accept, but they appreciate our science-based system. And that's something that we need to have. You talk about a trust, like a social license. All these things are so important in the Asian community. But of course, our biggest partner is the United States of America, and we have to make sure that we maintain that market. They're our best friends and our biggest market, and we will continue to work very hard with them. And that's basically where we are, Mr. Breton, with promoting. But I think it's also fair to say that with SETA, that's going to be $1.5 billion a year right there. And it's so important. These kind of agreements, and other countries are looking at these kind of agreements that we're able to sign, and You saw what NAFTA did, increase the sale of agriculture by 4 times here in this country. It's amazing, these things.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. And we got about 4 or 5 minutes, so Mr. Ritz, 2 or 3 minutes, and then we'll try and get one final to Madame Brosseau.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and ladies and gentlemen, Minister, it's good to see you here today. It's like old home week. You mentioned maintaining the crop logistics working group. I think that's the right move to do. As you say, data is what makes the railways perform, and shippers need to know what's out there. You're also going to extend the system for quorum, Mark Hemes and his working group. Will they be able to collect week by week, corridor by corridor data, or is this the devil's in the details in making sure that Mark has the ability to collect week by week, corridor by corridor? That's very important. Yes or no?
I love those yes and no questions.
Well, I don't have any time.
No, the fact is, the process will evolve, and it will come out as to how we don't have all the answers. They just announced today, so the information will come. Okay. What they're there for, Mr. Ritz, is to make sure, and you know why they're there, is to make sure that the farmers know what's going on and that you and I know what's going on. Right. That's what's vitally important, and we want to make sure that happens.
Yeah, trade is vital to Canadian agriculture. We're going to grow it to 75. I think we can probably do better than that. But you don't mention TPP in here at all. That's very important to Canadian agriculture. You've left that out. You haven't made any comment about the distribution of cheese coming in from the European Union. That's really where the rubber hits the road as to who's going to handle all of that. So those types of details we hope are forthcoming.
Yes, they are, and I haven't mentioned every possible trade deal that we could have in this country, and I'm not the Minister of Trade, but I'm vitally interested in trade. I understand how important trade is. That's why we made sure as a government that we put CETA in place and approved it to make sure that the farmers had proper access to half a billion people.
Sure.
That's what we wanted to do to make sure.
I was happy to do your homework in that one.
We're open to any trade market anywhere, Mr. Ritz. I can assure you.
Okay. The other thing that's very important when it comes to trade is maintaining agricultural people in the embassies and consulates around the world, along with CFIA and some of the dedicated markets. Is that on your agenda as well, to make sure you have not foreign affairs people with an ag file, but actual ag dedicated people? And we've seen how they're worth their weight in gold in these markets.
I appreciate your concern and question. Not only I'm not very big on closing embassies, and I want to make sure that we have the proper people in the embassies to make sure that we have the agricultural expertise in the embassies so that different governments or different people are able to explain to our customers exactly what we have. We have 34 ag trade commissioners in different countries around the world. My deputy just gave me the information. But
Thank you, Mr. Minister. Thank you, Mr. Ritz. Madame Brosseau pour une minute ou deux, mais ça va finir là.
Ms. Brosseau.
What he's going to do with the distribution of cheese when it comes to CETA?
Well, of course, Ms. Brasser, I have to leave it to the Minister of Trade. I don't want to infringe on his territory, but I think it's shortly.
Okay, perfect. Recently, we had a private member's bill before the House of Commons that would facilitate the transfer of family farms. Sadly, that bill didn't even get to committee, and there was nothing in the budget to facilitate and ease the transfer of family farms. What kind of measures are you going to do to help the transfer of family farms?
As I indicated before in a question on family farms, it's a big problem. We have increased the funding for young farmers from $500,000 to $1 million, but I know buying a farm, there's many more dollars involved. It's something that we're looking at and will continue to look at. There's a wide range of federal programs that agricultural young people can look at. That's the Agricultural Loans Act program. And as I indicated, support for young farmers and career focus programs, Fund 65 agricultural partnerships. There's a number of programs that you can enter into, but it's a big expense, the transfer, and I understand.
And just again, I'm going to come back on PACA because this is something that has been going on for quite a few years, and I know it is something that is with the Minister Baines. Can you confirm that something will be done on PACA before summer, or will we have to wait another year, or maybe into the next election?
Well, I certainly appreciate your question, but you know I wouldn't be able to announce what somebody else should announce. I would love to be able to do it sometimes, but I can't do that.
Okay.
Unfortunately, that's the time we have this morning. I want to thank the Minister for taking the time to come over to speak to us today, and also all the federal people, Mr. Gorel, Mr. Corriveau, Madame Lyons, Mr. Rosser, and Mr. Mayor. Thank you so much for being here, and again, we're looking forward to
Thank you
the
very
next
much.
one. Thank you.
Appreciate it.